This is Spiritual Biz Chat with Kimberly Maska. Inspiration for spiritual entrepreneurs. Join our spiritual family at spiritualbizmagazine.com. Thank you so much for joining me, Brenda. How are you today?
I am fantastic, Kimberly. Such a thrill to be here with you.
Oh, lovely. So this is an interesting journey, I think, going from being an RN into the holistic side. So how did that happen? Let's hear about that reading you got, because that sounds like a transformational 5 minutes.
It was, and knocked me off my socks, and I'm still reeling from that ever since. And I'm just so thrilled that it happened. And what happened was, I was probably at the lowest pitch of my life at that time. My husband was in hospital, and he'd thrown the wedding ring at me the day before, and I had 3 small kids and working full time in a shift working job, just giving body, mind, and spirit away to everyone around me except nourishing myself. And one day, a palliative care worker at the hospital was seen putting her hands on different people, and we just followed around going, what the heck is that? You know? We actually named her the Freaky Voodoo Lady. And so we followed her around, and we were peeking around. It was almost like one of those cartoon things where, the characters are looking around the corner at something, and then they get looked at and they scoot away. It was just that kind of an event. We were following her around. Nobody had told us what she was doing or who she was. And then break time came, and I went down to the break room with another coworker, and she followed us downstairs. Can you imagine how freaked out we were?
You're like, why are you following me?
Exactly. So she came into the room and, interrupted our little bit of normalness, I guess. And she introduced herself, and she told us what she was doing because she saw we were curious. And then she asked if anybody would like to have a little mini session. And being that I was at the lowest point and I was really, really experienced a lot of personal anxiety and trying to hold it back professionally and in the workplace, I said, yes, pick me. And so she put her hands on me, and I was gobsmacked, to say the least, when I came back. I went totally out. It was as if I had gone to the islands, a tropical island resort, for like 5 minutes, and I had no recollection of my environment around me. And all I knew was I felt her hands moving down around my body, and they weren't in any one place for any length of time. And by the time she called me back, I was a new person. I was amazed that something so simple as somebody putting their hands on me can make me feel so relaxed. And and loved and safe, and I was not anxious at all. And I was just amazed and in such a euphoric state of mind that I couldn't believe it. So she said, she told me, she says, I come back every Tuesday. If you want to have more sessions, come see me and book in some time, and I'll be happy to work with you for 20 minutes every week. And that was it. And I have to tell you, that state of euphoria, despite the fact that my husband had thrown the wedding ring at me and I didn't know what the heck was going to happen next, I felt really, really in a relaxed place for about a day and a half. And, to a traditional nurse who had never experienced any hands-on healing or even any knowledge of anything beyond the realm of pills and prescriptions and, pokes and needles, I was right away a believer that there is something else out there. I have to find out more about it. And that led me on this lifelong quest now to find out more about holistic healing, biofield therapies, Reiki, and there are so many different modalities out there. Your listeners are probably either familiar with it or practice one or whatever, but I have to tell you, it changed my life forever.
That's such an amazing story. I love it every time there's some knock at the door with some strange woman or someone follows you somewhere and they give you a reading and it changes your life.
Yeah.
It happens more than we realize, but I love it. My guests seem to have that experience. It's so amazing.
It is. It is. I thank God every day.
So now, what was the turning point in getting this reading? Now you know about all the different holistic healings, but actually turning that into a business for you. What was that transition?
It took me a while because I did the sessions with her for a while. And then I said, well, can I do this? Can anybody do this? And she assured me anybody can do holistic healers. We're all naturally healers at heart. And so I learned level 1 of Reiki. And I thought, oh, that's it. That's all I'll ever need. I'm happy. I'm content. And wow, But she had said, there's going to be little nudgings that are going to come along the way that are going to tell you that it's time to move on. And I thought, yeah, right.
She wasn't right the first time.
No. I tell you, history's bound to repeat itself, right? So reluctantly, I went on to level 2, and then reluctantly, I went on to level 3, and reluctantly, I went, wow, there's something really here about this. Let me see what it's like to be a master teacher. So I went on to that, and it took me about a 5-year period before I really started getting comfortable with calling myself a healer. And and mind you, I'm still in the traditional world. I'm a licensed registered nurse, and and I'm thinking, am I crossing the boundaries and all this stuff? But then I found out that there were actually position papers on holistic healing biofield therapies from my regulatory body. And the another nursing association actually had a complementary therapy nurse interest group. And so I started to realize that it was really important to start connecting and realizing that this is bigger than me, and that there are a lot more like me out there that are wanting to combine the holistic practices of East and Western medicine, so to speak, and call it something called integrative health. So then I started putting out my shingle and, started telling people, and I would do like, whenever somebody at work had a headache, I would put my hands on them, and in 3 seconds, I would have them, feeling pretty good, and and realizing that there is really something here. And the thing is, though, as a holistic practitioner, it's easy to give it all away, and not realize that something as easy as this is actually a business, and we can actually help the world much more if we step into our light as a business practitioner and not just keep giving it away, because being a broke healer is not fun. And the days of where we could schlep down the road and ask for chicken for putting our hands on somebody are long gone. We need to have some real money here. So as we enrich the world with our talents and skills, so are we rewarded back with dollars. And there's nothing wrong in getting paid for what we do. And that's what I really want to let people know.
That's so important. That's probably my biggest message, is that I always like to say it's just energy, right? It's just energy that comes and goes, and the universe wants everything in balance. So if we're going to give our energy, we have to get something back. And it might as well be in the energy of money.
Why not? Makes the world a lot happier place, doesn't it?
So in addition to the money things, I know that is a big issue with the mind, body, spirit entrepreneurs. What other marketing challenges do you think exist as you're building your business, and you see with other holistic practitioners? What are they struggling with?
They're really struggling with the identity that they are a business, and and there are many branding issues out there. A lot of people struggle with branding themselves and thinking sometimes as holistic healers, when we're, giving from the heart and living a simplistic life and doing what we love, we really, really need to realize that we have a brandable, marketable product, and that is us. And they struggle with that. And they struggle with the gift of receiving because it's so easy to give and give and give and give that we suck our well dry. And, so again, going back to the receiving. Now, receiving can be more than just money. It can be, in recognition of your talents and skills. It can be in, just being really honored for who you are. And each one of us adds a special brand to the energy fields. And as there are as many modalities out there as stars in the sky these days, so are we as brands in that universe as well. So that is really, really it. And knowing how to market, how to present yourself to gain that recognition with, and still be in service and have that balance is important.
It is, I know, there's such that fine line, because people, if you they feel like more. I always, well, my tagline is take the icky out of marketing, right? Because marketing feels so icky because they seem to lose their voice in it. But there is that balance, and we have to market to get our voice out there so that people know and you can help more people. But so, what are some of your marketing strategies that you use that work to bring in your ideal client?
Okay, word of mouth is one. Word of mouth is really, really nice for creating a local market. Local market is really good because if you don't shine your light in your own community, how are people going to know that you're even there? That's one. The second thing that I like to say is start blogging, start writing. We all have something, a different viewpoint we can share. Blogging is really important. And actually, what happened for me was I started a tele-seminar series when I really stepped through to understanding that I have something to offer to the world. And so the tele-seminar series was really, really great because then it led to great contacts for me, which led to being part of books and being interviewed and also creating my own interview series, podcast series, E Factor Live. And, and as you gather your tribe that are like, you're shining your light and you are going to attract to you the things that need to be, that shine as bright as you do. You'll also attract some bugs along the way. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But once you get rid of the bugs, the light really shines, and you will find that you will have the community of support, whether that be listeners, followers, clients, but also support members in terms of the team or tribe that are going to support you on your journey. It's amazing how they show up, and you'll be amazed at who will show up for you when you finally do decide to turn your light on and let your light shine.
So true, right? I always say, build it and they'll come, right? We all hear that. Build it and they will come. And everyone's like, really? I'm like, they really will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Proof positive of that is myself and my story. I agree.
So who is your ideal client? And what are you other than the word of mouth, but how did you determine who that ideal client was?
It's amazing. You start, when you're first starting in the healing business, you're wanting to put your hands on everyone, and you have to learn to step back. You can put the word out there that you are, at your place of work. Or I remember one day I was at my daughter's skating club, and a couple of competitive skaters were complaining, and I was talking to one of the moms, and they said, "Oh, please, will you put your hands on my son? His back really hurts after, lifting up her." And that sort of thing. And so you're going to you're going to do some healing for some amazing people that are going to show up, and some will like it and some won't. Some will resonate with you and some won't. The thing is not to get so bent out of shape by the people that are not aligning with you or jiving with you or accepting your offer. So it's a sorting process. I have to tell you that. And as social media is wonderful too. You can offer online spot healings, do some distance Reiki healing or spot readings, and you'll be amazed who shows up from your list of contacts who will say, yeah, I'd like to experience that. I've gotten a lot of people that way who want to learn more, and then you just basically direct them to either signing up for your newsletter or let them know what you're doing or where you're showing up, and they'll be there and loving you. So the thing is not so much for you to necessarily select your ideal client, but just to not be afraid to put your light out there, your energy out there, and see who shows up. I think that's the most amazing thing.
Yeah, just being vulnerable, right? We're putting ourselves out there, and you take that one step, and people come in support for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So on the marketing strategy level, do you have one that works for you that really generates a lot of profits, and maybe on the flip side, one that just doesn't work and you had to stop using?
Absolutely. The idea that I have come up with is I started doing some podcasting through Blog Talk Radio, and and it was great because it started to get me out there. And again, Blog Talk Radio is a great repository for other broadcasts that you're on and that sort of thing. But just really getting over the fear of expressing yourself. And my first podcast, I was terrified to say the least. But but the thing is with Blog Talk Radio is you can get some live interactions happening, and when people start calling into your show and talking to you and asking questions, or you're interviewing other people, and people are showing up and wanting to participate in that. That was a great strategy. It's a great way of creating global reach, which is what we have our hands on today. And I think global reach is a marvelous marketing tool in many ways to do. That didn't work so good is giving my power away to others who were managing my podcasts, or where I had to pay other companies to distribute or manage my show. So not that that's a bad thing. I think that that's great. When you're starting out, it's kind of nice to let somebody else help you, direct you, guide you, show you the ropes. But know when to launch yourself into freedom, and being more autonomous in the process is huge. It's a huge liberator. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm actually creating a production company. I've been invited to be on a web TV program that's being developed right now as well. But my production company is really near and dear to my heart, because through, like I said, how you'd be amazed who shows up. I have a branding expert who's been an absolute doll, who has years of experience in working with celebrities with their own branding, even in the commercial world of pitching products and things like that. And now he has turned his attention to helping soulpreneurs like myself and several other people who have found what we're doing so far, and helping to develop this whole new heart soulpreneur type business. And I think that that's fantastic, because the time is here for us to really get our brand out there, and creating a production company where we're creating podcasts that are going to be cataloged and sold to other radio shows and things like that, because the world is thirsting for this kind of information. So that is where, if you podcast and you're not making any money, it's a really nice hobby. But when you learn how to work with the right people and turn it into a business model that is really successful, that's when the turning point happens, and you can help so many people.
Yep, it's so true, right? And and I have to admit, I tell everybody, when I first started this podcast, it was kind of like, oh, this is fun, and it was a side thing to like share more information, and now it's really grown. And so yes, I'm in the process of relaunching, and if you're going to take the time and effort, you should be making some money no matter what you're doing.
Exactly.
It's an expensive hobby.
It can be, that's for sure. But it's really important, getting a website and really branding that website well, and creating your own secret sauce that's specifically yours is the magic that can make it all happen.
I like that, the secret sauce. It's so true. And everybody knows, they see you everywhere, and they know exactly who you are and what you do. It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. So what has been your greatest business success?
I think just being being able to turn this into a money-making model is really obviously successful. But then when you make all these connections that are leading to other opportunities, like being in books and book offers, and literary agents show up that can start to take your blogs and turn them into a book, and then promote them to the major New York books cycles and things like that, publishing houses, and then being recognized to be a cast member on web TV, or creating a treatment that could be picked up by a network. Those are all adjuncts to the what basically started is coming from a heartfelt centered place and willing to put your hands on people and make a difference.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And how about, I don't know, we've all had the moment where we've looked and said, well, that didn't work out so well. Any great business lessons, or I hate to say failures, but we learn from them, so they're all fantastic. But anything like that you'd like to share?
Oh, yeah. Like I said before, when you start to shine your light, you attract the light, but you also attract the bugs. And there's been a few bugs along the way, and they were people who showed them up as being wanting to be very, promote you, show you, work with you. And then you find out that they're not of the same alignment as you are. And being able to know this is the difference, when you are a soulpreneur and you're coming from that well-connected place that we do come from, you basically can sit and you can discern. And sometimes you listen to that discernment and sometimes you don't. And if you can really get focused on your mission, vision, passion, and really get clear on what your purpose is and what it is that you want to do, then it's much easier to swat the bugs away and get on with your work. Now, that doesn't mean that along the way that the bugs are going to be kind and just go away willingly. Sometimes these bugs that show up may take you for some money, and let's be, that can happen in traditional business as well. So it's not unique to the soulpreneurship model, but it's just a matter of really, really knowing and trusting and being clear and not wanting to be a doormat for anybody else to walk on. So as you get stronger in your own practice, so do you also have to get stronger as a business person. And I think sometimes that's a hard thing in whether it be traditional business or not to make those clean house moves that happen, or to re-emerge yourself after something has happened to you that might have knocked you right out of the water. So that is where it can be a bit tricky, and I've had those moments a couple times already. But I'm still here, and I'm still standing, and I'm getting stronger in my business every day.
That's lovely, because right, when you're, especially as soulpreneurs, right? Because we have to connect with people. It's not just a business, and frankly, everyone should think that way, but they don't, and that's okay. But when we're in this mind, body, spirit community, it's so important to connect and make sure that we're not. It's not just like, go do this. It's like, I always ask my clients when I give them something to do, I'm like, does that resonate with you? Are you okay with that? Does that feel okay? Because the last thing I want to do is say, go do this strategy. And they're like, oh my God, I can't do it.
Yeah, that's true. It's getting real, right? I mean, it's the realest, truest, rawest connection we can have another person. And especially a lot of our work is done through Skype and telephone. And we don't actually have that personal connection like they're our neighbor next door, so to speak. So we really, really do have to check in with them to really get their vibe in alignment with what we're doing, or we shift our alignment in what they're doing.
Yeah. And also, like you mentioned earlier too, and I don't think I addressed it, but the being the business minded, it's no longer a hobby, it's a business, and being able to take that, and I like to teach my clients to be self-sustaining entrepreneurs, because they need to have that knowledge to be a success. Because if you don't have that business knowledge, as icky as it might be, or left-brained as it might be, if we don't have that, then you can't get out there and change more lives.
That's right. And that's why it's so important to have good coaching. Good coaching is just like a good insurance policy. When you have somebody that can be a good resource for you and help you to take the ick out of the business part of it, and you can share, and you it just can really elevate your presence and take you to that next stage.
It really does make a difference. I have to say, it was very funny. I was being interviewed on a show the other day, and they asked me like my biggest life lesson. And when I thought about it, I thought, it was actually knowing that you can get a mentor and a coach, and that they can help you like lightning speed your business and life. And I didn't even know that existed. Is all the Wall Street stuff that I did and the success that I had, I actually did not, that was not part of my world, that you could go hire someone to help you. You did it, and somehow I managed. And I thought was the coolest thing when I figured out, like, you mean you can go hire like a Tony Robbins and get like all this information? You're like, wow.
Absolutely. I mean, it's in the traditional world, if you go to seek help, it's like a sign of weakness.
Right.
But when you're doing this stuff, it's like a sign of, expansion and really lightning speed, like you say, to transform your business for sure.
The best advice I ever got once I figured it out.
Perfect. Well, another thing too is not only from a business perspective and getting a business coach or a life coach and that sort of thing, but it's actually find another healer, another modality that can help you to break through those energetic blocks that are holding you back. That's important too.
That is important, yes. Because you don't want to be out there by yourself on your own. It's
No.
tough. But so you mentioned book publishing. So let's talk a little bit about the books you've been involved in and how the publishing process worked for you. Did you go traditional self-publishing? What was that experience like, and what can you share as a learning experience?
Well, I have as yet not published my own book, but that's in the works. And but I remember one of somebody that, again, going back to Great Connections, Ann Deidre was a guest on. Actually, she was that was her first teleseminar invitation was on my series, and she has catapulted herself exponentially since then out in the
I
world.
actually just interviewed her a couple weeks ago.
Ah, perfect. There you go. See, it works. The
Yep.
circle really works.
Yeah.
But so we had the great conversation, and she had the 55 keys of success and all this sort of thing out there at the time. And she, through her coaching and connection, she invited me to be a part of her first book launch. She had written a few books already, but decided to become a publisher of a soul-filled series. And the Inner Circle Chronicles Volume 1 is where I first appeared in writing in hardcover. And let me tell you, that is such a beautiful business tool, is to be a part of somebody's collaborative effort. And nobody can ever take that away from you. So, it's powerful. And so that was published through a independent publishing house. And actually the story behind that is we didn't realize it was up on Kindle until until Anne actually just checked because she wanted to show her son that it was on Kindle. And there it was in the bestseller level already. And
It's a good surprise.
absolutely. I mean, that was really joy-filled. The next thing came the calls, and we're up there. And, and just promoting it amongst ourselves and on social media and the viral context of it. It has been in the top sellers for a while, and she's gone on now to put Volume 2 and Volume 3 together. And I'm just so thrilled that I was able to be a part of that with such a group of magnificent women from all walks of life. And, it was a thrill. And then shortly after that, I was contacted by another person that I had great relationships and conversation with on a podcast. And she was putting together a book. And the Embraced by the Divine book is a waiting publication. We have a literary agent who's taking it to the New York houses. And we're also going to be launching it on Kindle and self-publishing it as well. Because sometimes the road to overnight success as a bestseller can take a number of years to get there. So we're not going to put it on the shelf. We're going to get active there. So
I know, right? It's the book process is such a lengthy commitment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the thing is, though, too, it's important because social media, crowdfunding, really getting everybody to promote and blog and this sort of thing is we've really created a cult presence so far for the Embraced by the Divine because of all our efforts. And so by the time we actually get to the printed version, we'll already have the numbers and we'll already be a success. So there's the work behind the work, and it's like the birthing process. Everything good takes time.
Doesn't it, though? let the seeds germinate.
Absolutely.
So speaking of books, what book is there that you couldn't live without? That's been such a huge impact in your life. It could be a business book, it could be spiritual, but that's been transformational for you.
There are two, actually. One was an ebook that Dr. Joe Vitale published well before the time of him being on The Secret. And I think this was like, I call it, you can still get it. It's on mrfire.com/fire. and it's called Spiritual Marketing. And that book really took me at a point when I was just really formulating, all the pieces were coming together for me to think about, what am I going to do with this hands-on healing? What are the potentials and where can I go with it? It talks about the universal laws that are in effect, whether you believe them or not. One of the most famous ones is the law of attraction, but there are several other ones that are always at work, whether you know they are or not. They're not tangible, but they do make a difference. And once you understand it, because Joe Vitale is actually an excellent hypnotic marketer. And he applied these principles, and they work for him, and they work for anybody who applies them.
That's great advice, because it's so hard to find that balance between marketing and then, how do you keep your authentic voice and do it with our really like the idea of our souls connecting versus anything else.
Right, exactly true. Another pivotal book was Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins. And that book it's just jam-packed full of amazing information. I know my Reiki master, who was the freaky voodoo lady, became my mentor in terms of developing my healing skills. And she gave me that book one week, and she said, I need it back by next week. And it was a thick book, but I read it in like 3 days. It was just so powerful in the information. It talked about muscle testing and how we can actually all have the ability to discern through muscle testing the truth of different things that are presented to us. And that is like, the universe is around us to help us, and all that information is there already. It's just a matter of us tapping into it. So muscle testing is really good. Another valuable tool that came out of it was the scale of consciousness. And it talks about 1,000 different emotional words, and they were all muscle tested to be calibrated to where they are in the scale of consciousness, with your heavier, baser emotions weighing lower, where love is located, and how the highest frequency of vibration that we can find in this world is joy. And if you can imagine, 1,000 different words were calibrated by muscle testing. It's awesome, and it really does open you up to understanding where you are in shifting your consciousness by the words you use.
That's amazing. I've seen it. I've seen the muscle testing done here and there, but I've had it done to me, and you're like, holy cow, how did that happen? But I didn't know that there was a whole list of words calibrated that way. I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah. Actually, I think you can just do a Google search and you can find it and then just print it off. And I know myself, I have it pasted to my mirror. So every morning I'm trying to figure out, where am I today?
Love it. Now, how about from a business and marketing standpoint? Is there a piece of software, and I'm going to make you step outside of saying Word in your phone, because I get that a lot, but is there something that you use that helps keep you organized and keep your business running?
Right now, I'm switching to Infusionsoft, because I think customer marketing relationships and knowing how to target your promotional campaigns for what you're doing, the different events you're on, I think it's very important to have a really good way of capturing more leads. And as an online marketer, you only have a split second or two to catch somebody's attention, and it can make the difference regarding success or a bust in whatever it is you're promoting at the time. But so I'm really moving towards that and integrating that. Other than that, is just really creating a good newsletter and having a good contact base in which to continue to promote your events and your newsletters, and giving good content. Whoops, sorry about that.
It's amazing the things we forget we have on.
I know. So there we go. Anyway, thank goodness for buttons we can push. So I really think it's really, as you grow a global tribe, being real, being warm, sharing your messages, and being really responsive to your audience is really important. So good content management is key.
That it is. So looking back on your journey, if you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently?
I would honestly say I wouldn't have waited so long to get going. Because it's easy, when you're sitting there on the fence and you're kind of, oops, sorry about that. I apologize.
That's okay.
I'll just kind of sit on the phone and turn it off. The thing is, the painful time is when you're trying to make a decision. Once you're focused, it's much easier to be clear and concise and just forward moving. The waiting period of making that decision, do I do this or don't I do this? Do I stay in this or do I stay in my job or whatever? It's painful. I think the very, very first thing and the most important thing is just make a decision. Just make a decision to go for it. And then everything else will start to align itself up for you in order to get aligned and start to get moving forward and seeing success.
Yeah, it's taking action. That's the hardest part. That fear holds you back, and if you can just take action, it'll all happen for you. You just got to keep moving forward.
Absolutely.
I think John Assaraf says it best. He talks about, the law of attraction, the law of this. He's like, and the law of Goya. And Goya is get off your bum. And I love it.
Absolutely. Well, it's like that, right? We always gravitate to comfort and if we're comfortable being on our butt, right? We're going to stay there. But, after a while, you can get, from the nursing perspective, you stay on your butt too long, it starts to get sore and chafed and you can get pressure ulcers.
I like that. Oh, I'm going to totally use that analogy.
There you go.
Oh, goodness. Too funny. So any last bit of advice you have for my listeners that are contemplating getting out there? They're just about to take some action. Any last bit, a golden nugget for them?
If they really want to have a little bit more of a personal conversation, I would really like to have them give me, send me an email at info@efactorlive.com. Love to sit down and talk with them and give them, hear them out, because sometimes people just need to know that somebody cares enough to listen. And then that can help them to clear their blocks just by talking about it, especially somebody who's been in the business of getting off their butt and going. And if they need resources, like I say, I've developed a really good base of resource people who come from a really genuine soul base. And, the bugs are gone, so I'm much clearer to be able to help people. Just make it happen. Just reach out. And if that's your first step, then that's a great place to start. I wish I would have had somebody, like for me, for years, I was 11 years as a teleseminar junkie before I finally decided to get off my butt. And, and it was great, but you can learn and learn and learn and learn, and great to have all that knowledge, but it's lost unless you do something with it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time and information. I've been super inspirational, and I'm so glad that woman, the crazy voodoo woman, gave you that reading so that you can go out and help more people.
God bless her every day. She's been a godsend. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here with you, Kimberly.
Fantastic. It brought us all together. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been lovely.
It's been lovely. I'm so pleased to be with you and your audience. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
You've been listening to Spiritual Biz Chat with Kimberly Maska. Inspiration for spiritual entrepreneurs. Hear our latest interviews and join our spiritual family at spiritualbizmagazine.com.